Hello my lovely loves, welcome back to The Process, where we embrace the process of life to be our best versions. Today we're going to talk about what is wrong with Emily in Paris. Before I go on, I must confess that I did binge watch the entire first season in 2 nights. And the good thing about the show is that it really highlighted how negatively 2000s TV and film cliches affected my subconscious mind. Thankfully, I am a little more conscious than I was back then, and I could really watch the show objectively and really pinpoint the red flags. In saying that, the show did inspire / coerce me into buying my dream handbag, as well as inspire me to get really serious about my travel plan. So there is always a pro in everything. Before we get right into what is wrong with Emily in Paris, I just wanted to preface that this is just my opinion. Take what resonates and leave the rest behind. There are heaps more videos on YouTube about different aspects of Emily in Paris that are a little bit incorrect, but I'm just going to focus on the ones that really resonated with me and hit closest to home for me. Please only continue watching if you have finished Emily in Paris or if you don't care about spoilers, because I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in the show. So the first thing that really stood out for me in Emily in Paris was the emotional bypassing, or like emotional process bypassing. When I first started to watch the show, I genuinely felt like I was transported back to Lizzie McGuire days, and I feel like even Lizzie McGuire had more depth of character than Emily does. The first time this really became an issue for me, or triggered myself to be conscious in my consumption of the show, is when Emily and her long-term boyfriend break up. This one hit especially close to home because about a year ago, over a year ago now, my long-term partner and I broke up. For those of you that have watched the show, I don't know if this is something you picked up on, but she spoke about her partner as if they'd been together for a long time, they were about to get engaged, they kind of had a whole life set up. And when he broke up with her / she just kind of hung up on his face, that was the last time we heard about that situation, and he was just gone from then on. Anyone watching out there who hasn't experienced a breakup before, this is not how breakups happen. Even if you do have an amicable, clean-cut breakup, you still have a lot to process. And the way Emily just hangs up the phone, kind of, it's over. Beep, that's it. She doesn't shed a tear, she doesn't cry, nothing happens. So this is where I just kind of realized that our protagonist is an emotional robot. The reason this can be a little bit of a problem is because the target audience is a younger audience. We're still kind of figuring life out. We're still trying to look for answers and learn how to do things the right way. So when we watch a TV show unconsciously, we basically learn that that is how things go. So when it doesn't happen that way in real life, we think that something is wrong with us, maybe even medicate ourselves to run away from the very normal and human response to something like that happening. I'm not saying that every TV show has to portray the exact process of emotional trauma, but I really feel like it can be dangerous when you paint it as if it's nothing and as if it's totally possible to just continue on in your life with absolutely no consequences from not acknowledging that pain. There are a few other instances in the show where Emily shows no sign of emotionally processing anything. She doesn't have a journal. She doesn't talk to anybody really about her problems unless it's kind of in a gossipy way or a complaining way. The most she gets to talking to anyone about her breakup is, I can't even remember, that's how forgettable the scene was. I can't fully remember, but she basically just tells someone, yeah, we're not together anymore. And then whoever she told doesn't ask further questions. She basically just says like, yeah, you're single, now you can get laid in Paris. Like, you're meant to be friends. If Emily's not gonna do the emotional work, can there please be somebody around her to remind her to do it? There are other shows out there that I have watched semi-recently that really beautifully paint that emotional process and the true human way of going about the human experience. Issa Rae's Insecure and Aziz Ansari's Master of None both go deeper than I ever would have expected a show to go into. What's beautiful about those shows is that it almost teaches you and shows you in such a mature way the good and the bad ways of going about processing things. We see both protagonists suffer the consequences when they don't acknowledge the pain or the troubles in their lives. And not to pit shows against each other or anything, I just kind of wanted to paint the difference. And it's funny because there is a scene in Emily in Paris where one of the people she works with accuses Americans of escaping into their film and TV. And while I thought that was like a clever way of bridging the show into a deeper meaning, it just never got there. And that was just really ironic that that was in the show. And while admittedly I did kind of get lost in this really perfect human being, as I said, I was really aware and conscious not to adopt her character as my own, which is something that we can really do, especially when we binge watch a show back-to-back episodes. So to put it bluntly, it is totally fine if you need to take a week or 2 weeks in hiding, in solitude after a breakup, especially a long-term relationship that you thought was going in a really serious direction. It's totally okay to cry to your friends and tell them how you really feel. It's totally okay to at least take a day off work after it happens. It's okay to journal about it. It's normal. And that's not just with breakups, that's with anything horrible that happens in your life. It's okay to take time to process it, and it's okay not to turn up to work in your best designer clothes immediately after something really challenging has happened to you. It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you strange. It just means that you feel feelings, which is something that the character Emily has not been written to do. The second issue I had with the show is the romanticizing of people pleasing in Emily's character. Emily's portrayed as this really perfect, happy-go-lucky, optimistic, bright, bubbly young woman. And I almost feel a little bit hypocritical nitpicking her because I know that I can often portray that same kind of bubbly, optimistic attitude. Besides perfection, all of those personality traits are really beautiful and great things to nurture within yourself and within others. However, to have those and to be able to sustain those attributes of yourself, it's paramount that you also acknowledge when you feel hurt, unheard, or even bullied. The main scenes that we see this romanticized people pleasing in is with Emily and her boss at her new marketing agency. For those who haven't seen Emily in Paris, Emily's new boss at the marketing agency is pretty much out to get her. Her character also has no depth. I was kind of hoping for a really nice backstory as to why she is the way that she is, but there was no backstory. It never came. But from the get-go, she's just really mean to Emily. Obviously, we can all understand how it can be a little insulting that she's come to this agency in Paris and cannot speak French, but she never really gave Emily a chance to explain why that is, and pretty much just makes her life a living hell no matter how much work Emily does. Now, while that can pull at our heartstrings and make us feel like the boss is a really bad woman and she sucks and blah blah blah, we can almost really easily miss the fact that Emily's character is showing us that it's okay to be treated that way, that we should fight for that person to like us, we should do everything in our power for them to like us, and again, that we don't need to make time to emotionally process any of the pain that comes with being targeted in a workplace or really by anyone. Emily makes it her responsibility to be liked by everybody, and she clearly doesn't like not being liked, which we can all relate to, which again is why it's kind of dangerous to have our protagonist or our hero in the show be idolized for putting up with really bad treatment. We see Emily put her feelings, time, needs, and energy aside in the name of people liking her. She's always trying to prove herself, and they really romanticize that. Like, that's what you come to like about Emily, and that's what you come to love about Emily, but in the real world, that would have such horrible psychological effects on you, and I can speak from experience. Having yourself work that hard to make people like you or to have people like you is exhausting, and it basically makes you feel like you being yourself isn't enough, and you always have to try to be someone or do something to be accepted and liked. Emily had a few chances to tell her workplace back in America that she was being unfairly treated, and she never took the opportunity. She never asked for help, and she just continued to take things on herself and make it her responsibility for others to like her. Of course, the psychological effects this could have on a human being is not shown in the show at all. None of the characters ever really bring it up that it's not okay the way she's being treated, and that it's totally fair for her to kind of feel not great or feel a little bit sad. From a conscious viewing of the show, I can just see in the real world how Emily will have major insecurity issues following her experience with the boss, especially if the boss never really comes around, or even if she does come around, Emily is subconsciously gonna learn that she has to work for people to like her, and that she will bend like a contortionist to be somebody that others will like her for. People pleasing is something that I've worked a lot with in my life and seen a lot in people around me, and so that's why I wanted to bring that up, because the way that they portrayed it is almost like a good trait to have, and it's just that we deserve better. We deserve to give ourselves a better representation of how difficult it is to experience that longing to be liked. I'm gonna close this, I guess you could call it a review, with one of the funniest scenes that were in the show, which was, I'm guessing, their attempt to nudge towards her going through a hard time or her being sad. And that was when she looked over her balcony, and her eyes, like, it was clearly makeup. They'd put like pink and red, like as if maybe she was crying or she was tired. And I genuinely paused and I was like, was there did she get a disease or something? Did something happen? And she was just like looking over and she was like, I was like, oh, okay, they're trying to nudge towards her having cried or something. So, I mean, they tried in their own way, and to me, it just looked odd. It was odd, but I guess that was their way of getting it in there. That's all I have for you guys today. As I said, take whatever resonates and leave the rest behind. This is just my opinion. I do hope you got something valuable out of this video, even if it is just that it's okay to feel your feelings and not be an emotional robot. If you made it to the end of the video, I would so appreciate if you left a like and comment, and even subscribe to the channel. Those are the best ways to tell YouTube that you like my content and support my channel. Try to remember that life is a process, and in the ups and downs, be there for yourself as much as you possibly can. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.